Greetings and salutations, Guardian Scholars. Welcome to week 10. So we are two-thirds of the way through by the end of this week, and we are in our second week of Level 3 Slaying Monsters, working on our problem solution research project. I wanted to make sure that you remember that Monday, October 26th, is our book club crew meeting 3. And so I will, in the beginning of class, have you guys in groups for about 30 minutes or so, discussing your readings. And so please make sure that you're prepared in advance for that time. I do have the asynchronous alternative set up already for those of you who are not able to be there because of work or illness or any other reason. I will also spend time in class on Monday going over how to do the research notes and the Essay 3 pre-write that are due. Now, one of the things you will notice is those Wednesday and Friday Zoom meetings are gone this week. I think that there are fewer and fewer people getting there, and more people are really just wanting one-on-one time with me. So I have set up Wednesday and Friday slots for appointments. So please make appointments with me during those times. If you go into ConferZoom, the second tab over says appointment booking. You have to select my name and then select one or two slots. If you feel like you need to talk to me longer than 10-15 minutes, you are welcome to select two slots in a row. And I can help you with your research project or your drafting or anything else that you need help with during that time. So that's going to be Monday. Please make it there, especially since we're not doing any other large group meetings together. Our weekly reflective journal 10 is actually preparation for your essay 3. I really want to make things do double duty, and so I wanted you to really think about your hook and how to get your reader into the essay. So I did give a model of how you would write your just a brief introductory paragraph, and so I color coded it just to remind you about what we've learned about hook, bridge, and thesis. But really what I'm looking for is your hook. And so if you don't have your bridge and thesis for the reflective journal, that's okay. Just 15 minutes, think about how you would get your reader involved. The next thing up is really huge. If you do this, you will set yourself up so much for success on the research project. And I have a confession to make. When I was a freshman in college and I had my first research paper, I did all of my research notes after I had written my paper. However, I quickly learned that I was doing things backwards. um, and so what I did is I realized from that time that if you take your notes as you're doing the research, you don't spend hours and hours going, I read something that was kind of about causes, and then you're not searching through 10 sources trying to figure out where you saw that. So it actually will save you so much time if you do this work right now. And so what you want to do is take notes from your sources. Maybe do one source at a time or do it half an hour at a time. And you're going to pseudo skim your way through this and try to find causes, effects, and solutions to your problem, and any maybe important definitions that your reader might need to know. So if you're talking about clinical depression, you might need a definition of clinical depression from one of your sources. But mostly you're looking at, why is this a problem we need to solve? How does it affect people negatively? How many people does it affect? And so on. What are the possible causes or contributing factors to the problem that we might need to address in a solution? And what solutions have been tried? What solutions have been proposed? What seems to be the best way of solving this, according to your educated opinion after researching? So I do have a model of research notes in a Google Doc, and I do have a video that I created about how to take research notes. So I was modeling doing that. And so I do really encourage you to check both of those out so that you have a good sense of how to do this. So what you want to do is really, because most of the sources are digital, you'll be able to type them, but you could also copy and paste them in. I do want to remind you that you really should use quotation marks, because it's when you're copying and pasting, it can be very, very easy to accidentally plagiarize. So please do use quotation marks and then include your in-text citation so that you don't forget later where you got that information from. Again, it'll make your life easier. So I have two models here. One is with typed research notes. I moved this up to the top because most of you are going to be doing this. And so I used a database. I used Academic Search Complete. I searched diabetes and epidemic. And then I found this and I included the works cited entry. Well, looking at that works cited entry, I know I need to use his last name in my citations. So you'll notice I have a quote, I put quotation marks around it, I have his last name, and I have the page number in there. Now, what I have in front of it are just little notes for me. This is not required, but I like to do it so that later when I'm looking through, I can remember where I wanted to use it. Like, what are the costs? What are the risk factors? So I sometimes have a little note like that. You are not required to do that. The classic way of doing it is on 3x5 cards, which you still may do if you prefer. And so I have an example of two different 3x5 cards on wildfires. And so I just wanted to point that out as an option too. So please, again, as normal, you're going to submit assignment as file upload or text entry or Dropbox or Google Drive and so on. Okay. Now, for Thursday, this is the also very important activity this week because you're going to want to outline. Now, one of the things I said is you may brainstorm cluster free write first, but you have to have the outline. So you might do other pre-writing. You don't have to turn it in. You can show it to me if you want to. I did create an outline template that you could use, and you don't have to use this. It's just an idea of how you can really break this up into sections. And you'll notice that I have 5 sections. That's including the intro and conclusion. And as I had mentioned before, if you take each of the body sections and think of them as a 2-page paper. I'm going to have a 2-page paper on defining and proving that the problem needs to be solved, i.e. negative effects. I have a section on exploring the causes of the problem. I have a section on proposing solutions to the problem. So if you're thinking, somewhere between 3 to 5 paragraphs for each of those, maybe around 2 pages for each of them, it becomes a lot easier. So you don't have to use my outline template. It's there if it helps you. And I would say just spend about 60 minutes on this. About 60 minutes outlining. And if you do that, it may just be topic based, because later on I'm going to ask you to add more information to it. Now we have one last 3 S's, and so this is the last of those. And then for the Writing Center this week, you'll notice there's nothing there, and yet I still say you can submit an assignment. Well, many of you have gotten behind on the Writing Center. This is one of the weeks where you can catch up. You can turn in something. If you've missed, I would highly recommend, if you are still working on an essay and you want to meet with an instructor or tutor and talk to them about your essay, remember that's worth 20 points, not just 10 points. And so if you've missed that in a previous week, you could do that and submit it this week. So in a sense, this is a little bit of a lighter week. If you need to just not do the Writing Center this week, that's fine. But if you need to catch up, this is a time you can do that. Excuse me. And then we have a support activity that's due Saturday, October 31st. Happy Halloween! And all of this is taking the 2 other activities you did earlier this week and melding them together. Now, I'm not requiring that you do this for the whole outline, though I would love it if you did, but I wanted to make it something manageable. I want you not to get overwhelmed. So if you just want to try it with one section, to make sure you understand how to do it, that's fine. If you want to do it with the whole thing, that will help you out so much in writing your rough draft. But what I'd like you to do is start thinking about if you pick either the effects section, the causes section, or the solution section, then find in your research notes everything that might belong in there, put them in, Think about what order you want to put it in, play around with the organization. And again, this should take maybe half an hour to an hour at the most of just taking your notes and putting them into the outline. What that will do is make it so much easier for you to write that section of the paper. So like I said, if you can do it with all three sections, that's great. If you can't, don't worry. I want to see you do it at least with one to make so that you can kind of get the idea of how to do that. Okay, then the last assignment for the week is drafting an Essay 3 body paragraph. And so I ultimately would do the 91 one first, put them in, and then pick one of the paragraphs from that section and try drafting it. And I want you to look for a paragraph where you're using 2 to 3 sources. So if you have a body paragraph with only one source, you're not quite getting to what I want you to do here, which is look at how your sources talk to each other, right? Do they agree with each other? Do they disagree with each other? And so on. So this is something I really want you to be focused on this is pick out 2 to 3 different sources, different authors. What do they all say? So if you're saying that a negative effect of homelessness is that you're more likely to be victimized by crime, then if you have 2 or 3 sources that say this, it's so much more persuasive to have more than one witness basically to what you're trying to say. And that's it for week 10. So next week we'll be working on actually drafting our research papers and having the peer review and revising and polishing. If you do these steps, you will be much better off next week.